Oftentimes, prospects specifically and new clients will come in and want to understand what do they have in their portfolios, and they're not quite sure how to evaluate it. So in today's video, I wanted to spend some time and go over things that I look at when I am working with folks for the first time. We're talking big picture, global, not necessarily diving into the deep end of understanding all the different bits and pieces, but really the bigger picture of just understanding or having a basic understanding of what you have in your portfolio. If that's Welcome to Elephant Corner Financial Lab. My name is Nev. I'm a financial planner with Elephant Corner, which is a Vermont registered investment advisory firm. In today's video, we're really going to be talking about how to think about what your portfolio is and sort of a mental model of where to look for things and just understand of what you have. Nothing here is or should be construed as financial advice. And if that's something that you need, then I suggest that you work with your financial professional. Now, let's jump into the different screen and really kind of look at what are some of the things that I would look at. So first thing first is I would request a statement. Now, the statement basically is what you get from your custodian. So whether that's Vanguard, Fidelity, Schwab, independent brokers, JP Morgan, uh, right? All the different big and small names that you might have. But what you want to do is get a statement, and it's going to have multiple pieces of paper, and right, there's going to be like your mailing address, it's going to be a logo, it's going to be some sort of chart that is showing you how your investment has grown or not grown for that matter, and it's going to give you a bunch of information for it. But one of the pieces that it's going to give you is going to be your holdings. And this list of holdings is going to have ticker symbols. The ticker symbols are going to be important for us in this case scenario because it's going to give us information of like, what do we have? Do we have mutual funds? Do we have ETFs? Do we have independent stocks, bonds? What do we particularly have? If it's a stock, it's a stock. It's a pretty simple, like you understand that if you have Apple like AAPL, then we know it's a stock and you understand what Apple is. Where I often see folks get a little bit more confused and need some help is when we're talking about mutual funds or ETFs. Because those are basically baskets. Here's my lovely basket that contain a host of different items in it. And folks, hold on, let me put in some few other. We gotta add things into our basket. But that's basically what mutual funds and ETFs are. They're baskets that hold different stocks and bonds. Can be a combination, can be just one, can be industry based, can be location based, can be different methods that exist. How do you know if it's a mutual fund or an ETF? Mutual funds typically have 4 letters, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and then have an X. ETFs will basically have typically 3 to 4 letters, and most frequently it's not going to end with X, although it can. So an example of an ETF would be VOO. Most people have heard of that. Or SPY, for example. One piece is understanding what you have in it. The next step that I would do is I would take those ticker symbol, so ticker, okay, and then I would go online and find out what's in it. So what I want to find out is the holdings, okay? Because it's a basket, right? You can't say, oh, I went to a grocery store and I have a red basket. Guess what? Everybody has a red basket in that same grocery store. That's not helping us to figure out what it's in your basket. So you want to go in and take a look and say, oh, well, in my basket, I have cheese and I have wine and I have bread, right? And you want to be very specific of what kind of cheese and wine and bread you have in your basket. And then in my basket, maybe there's going to be like an apple and a banana and chocolate chips, and right. So we want to understand what's in our basket. That we're going to accomplish by holdings. And more often than not, we're going to be able to get this from a prospectus. prospectus. Prospectus is a fairly large document, fairly long, but it gives us a lot of information. One of the pieces of information is going to be holdings. Now, they might not list if the fund holds 500 stocks, for example. It might not list all 500, but it will give you the top 5, top 10, top 20, and most of them will do that. You want that to understand if you're properly diversified or not. The second piece that I want to understand are the fund fees. Those are going to be, for example, the front load, back load that exist within mutual funds, the expense ratios that exist within funds. And the reason we want the fees is to understand what is this fund costing us. So we want to understand, are we properly diversified? And we also want to understand what are we actually paying for the fees, and then be able to compare it and have a clear understanding of what's happening. Now, I'm not here to argue and say, you have to be in all these different things. I'm not here to argue to say that, X percent is really expensive versus really cheap. I think that all depends on what you're trying to accomplish, what your goal is, what the length of time is, what your risk profile is. And then of course, when it comes to fees, of like, what are you getting for those fees? Some people say, well, this is really expensive and this is really cheap. Well, it really depends. It depends what you're getting for the funds that you are paying for it. What kind of service, what kind of returns, what kind of things are you getting? But those would be the things that I would use to evaluate my portfolio, to then understand, does this align with what I am trying to accomplish? So for example, if I am wanting to be diversified, right, and maybe I have, say, 5 funds, and it looks like we're diversified, right? Like there's 5 different funds, they all have a different ticker symbol. Like from the big picture, when you first look at it, it looks really diversified. But if all those 5 funds were holding the same 20 companies, then I only have 20 companies, right? I don't have, versus if I had 5 funds that had 20 different companies, right? You kind of can tell the difference. So that would be one piece to understand, and then say, does that align with what I'm hoping to achieve? Maybe the other piece is that within my portfolio, maybe I don't want to have certain industries, whether because of my beliefs, whether because my alignment, maybe because of my values. So looking at the holdings within the funds is what's going to help us understand of, am I investing the way that is aligned with my values, my views, my beliefs, and the direction that I think that things are going to go. When it comes to fees, I want to understand, what am I paying and where's the money going, so that I have a better understanding of, if I invest $100, is the full $100 going into the fund, or is there a front load fee that I have to pay before money goes in? If I sell stuff, is there back load, right, back end fee that I have to pay before I get my money out? What are the expense ratios within the fund that exist, and what am I paying? Right? Is it 1%? Is it 0.1%? Or is it 10%? And then evaluate what am I getting for that? And is it going in the direction that I want it to go? So again, not to judge one way or the other how things are. It really, the idea is to give you sufficient information so that you can go in and understand, what am I holding? And then if you go in and uncover that all of your holdings are stocks, for example, you're like, okay, well, I should probably have some bonds, then this gives you an opportunity to change it. Or maybe you go in and find out, hey, wait a minute, just about every fund that I have is a bond fund, nothing is in stocks. It gives you an opportunity to potentially change it. Or you find out that, hey, this is perfectly aligned with everything that I want, and if nothing else, like, then you feel vindicated, like, this was a good pick, I feel good about it. In any case, the idea is not to judge what you have, but to give you tools and ideas and ways to think about, and also look into, of when you have something in your portfolio, finding out what you have, and find out, does it align with who you are and how you want to invest. So Hopefully this was helpful. Hopefully it gave you some information of how to think about things and where to go kind of take a look at that stuff. It's pretty easy. You literally can go into any search engine, type those ticker symbols and then prospectus, one sheet, or even just looking at like Yahoo Finance, for example. It's right out there and it will give you a lot of information that you may want to know and to understand your portfolio better. And if you find yourself completely confused and have no clue and find that you're not aligned, but or don't know if you're aligned, then work with a financial advisor and financial professional that can help you get there. Until next time, stay money blessed, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.